Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Myself Dr. Anil, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry, JSS Arts, Science and Commerce College, Bhopal. The college is affiliated to Rani Chennamma University, Belagavi, Karnataka. We started discussion on the concept of chromatography. The first video we have already discussed some basic concepts of chromatography and some brief description on paper chromatography. So here is your syllabus. So we have already discussed some of the points, most of the points in the syllabus. So the last point that we have to discuss in this video is advantages and disadvantages of the paper chromatography and the brief account of column chromatography and its applications. So let us see first some advantages and disadvantages of the paper chromatography or the limitations of the paper chromatography. We want to have a introductory part and descriptive part of the paper chromatography and all. So just go through the last video, the chromatography part 1 video, and you will understand the basic concept of the chromatography, classifications of chromatography, and then the brief description on paper chromatography. So here the advantages of the paper chromatography are: the paper chromatography is simple, rapid, and this requires less quantitative material for the analysis. Paper chromatography is cheaper compared to other chromatographic techniques. Both unknown inorganic as well as organic compounds can be identified by paper chromatographic method. Paper chromatography does not occupy much space compared to analytical methods or other equipments. So which is have high resolving power. The paper chromatographic method, which is having higher resolving power, higher separation of the component mixture, is possible in paper chromatographic methods. So let us see some of the limitations of paper chromatography. So large quantity of sample cannot be applied on paper chromatographic method. This is the first one. So we cannot apply large quantity of the sample or the mixture on the paper chromatographic method. In quantitative analysis, paper chromatography is not effective. So we can only separate the materials. We cannot do quantitative analysis by using paper chromatographic method. We can do qualitative analysis. We can have a knowledge of what are the components, what are the components present in a mixture, but we cannot say how much quantity of the components present in the mixture by using paper chromatographic method. Though it is a quantitative method, but we cannot say it is a quantitative method. The third one, the complex mixture cannot be separated by paper chromatographic method. Less accurate compared to liquid chromatographic methods such as SPLC or HPLC. So these are the limitations of the paper chromatographic method. So we have one more chromatographic method according to our syllabus, that is column chromatography. Column chromatography, the name itself indicates, which involves column. So let us see the definition. Column chromatography is a separation technique. You can see here there are many columns here. It is a separation technique in which components of mixture is separated by using a glass column packed with a stationary phase. So which is packed with a stationary phase, and the liquid mobile phase flowing continuously through the column. So once the column is packed with a stationary phase, then the liquid mobile phase is flowing continuously through the column. If that is the case, what will happen? The mobile phase is continuously flowing down, and the components of the mixture is separating out. You can see here, based on the interaction between the mobile phase and the stationary phase, so the components of the mixture are flowing, are separated. The weaker interaction component with the stationary phase comes first. So here you can see, and the interaction between the stationary phase and the mobile phase, which is stronger, and that is diluted or separated later as compared to the weaker interaction component. So very simple definition, it is a separation technique in which component mixture is separated by using glass column packed with a stationary phase and the liquid mobile phase flowing continuously through the column. The principle involved here is a solid stationary phase and a liquid mobile phase is used, and the principle of separation is adsorption. So if the solid stationary phase and the liquid mobile phase, then the principle of separation is adsorption. So here the mixture to be separated is dissolved in a suitable solvent that is also acting as a mobile phase and allowed to pass through the tube containing adsorbent. So that is stationary phase. The component which have greater adsorbing power is adsorbed in the upper part of the column, as we have already seen here in this one. Weaker interaction component is weaker adsorbing power component is coming down, and stronger adsorption component is at the top of the column. So that's what the component which have a greater adsorbing power is adsorbed in the upper part of the column. The next component is adsorbed in a lower portion of the column which have less adsorbing power than the first component. So this means the separation is totally based on the adsorption power of the components present in a mixture. The process is continued. This adsorption process is continued. As a result, the materials are partially separated and adsorbed in various parts of the column. The type of interaction between the stationary phase and the solute is reversible in nature. So this is very important. So every mixture can be separated with the use of, or many mixtures are being separated with the use of same stationary phase. So that's what it is, reversible in nature. So let us discuss based on the separation principle. We have 4 types of paper chromatographic methods. First one is adsorption column. So not paper chromatography, it is column chromatography. Here the first column chromatographic method is adsorption column chromatography. The technique of separation in which the compounds to be separated is retained or adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent or stationary phase. So here the principle of the adsorption column chromatography is, the name is adsorption of the component mixture on the surface of stationary phase or adsorbent. The second one is partition column chromatography. So here it is based on the variance in the partition coefficient of the individual components of a mixture, where the stationary phase and the mobile phase both are in liquid state. So it is both the phases, that is stationary and mobile phase, both are liquid, and the components in the mixture are having variance in their partition coefficients. The moment you put that mixture which is having components with a differential partition coefficients, so they separated based on the partition coefficient, variance in the partition coefficient. So here both the phases are liquid phase. The third one is gel column chromatography. Here the separation is carried out through the column packed with a gel and possess porous stationary phase. It is also referred to as size exclusion chromatography. So here it is also more or less like a adsorption chromatography, but here the thing is that the separation is carried out through column packed with a gel instead of solid material. Here gel is packed, and this gel is having a porous stationary porous material. So this is porous stationary phase, we can say, and it is also referred to as size exclusion chromatography. And the fourth one is ion exchange column chromatography. The basis relies on the charge of the molecules. Ion exchange means cation exchange is cations, anion exchange is anions. Let's say, for example, if you want to separate cationic components in the mixture, so we have to put the cationic exchange region in the column. So these cationic exchange region is separated the cations in the mixture. The separation is done when the molecules gets attracted to the oppositely charged stationary phase. So this is the ion exchange column chromatography. So we will see some of the applications of the column chromatography. So this is not the paper, this is the column chromatography. Column chromatography is one of the most useful methods for the separation and purification of the both solids and liquids. Its major applications includes separation of mixture of compounds, removal of impurities and purification processes. It is also used for the isolation of active constituents. Column chromatography is used for the isolation of metabolites from biological fluids. This is very important, and still people are using this column chromatographic method to isolate the various metabolites from the biological fluids. So it is mostly used method in the estimation of drugs in formulations in pharmaceutical industry, and used in the determination of primary and secondary glycosides in digitally slim, and the estimation of drugs in formulation or crude extracts. And also it is used for the separation of diastereomers. You know what you mean by diastereomers. So these are some of the main applications of the column chromatography. So mainly the separation of the mixture of components, it's a very general application. Second one is the removal of impurities or the purification processes. It is also used for the isolation of the active constituents and used for the isolation of metabolites from biological fluids, estimation of drugs in formulation, and used in the determination of primary and secondary glycosides in digitally sleep, estimation of drugs in formulation or food extract, and also used in the separation of diastereomers. So let us look at the column chromatography, column-chromatographic limitations and advantages. So advantages are column chromatography is any type of mixture can be separated by using column chromatography. Any quantity of a mixture can be separated. So as in the case of paper chromatography, so it requires very less amount of sample, but we cannot do the quantity, we cannot say how much quantity of the mixture or how much quantity of the constituent present in the mixture, but in this case any quantity of the mixture can be separated using column chromatography. Wider choice of the mobile phase. Here we can choose any mobile phase where the component mixture or the mixture is going to dissolve. And next is in preparative type, the sample can be separated and reused. And next is automation is possible. Automation is possible in the case of column chromatography. So and the limitations are, it is a time consuming method, more amounts of solvents are required, which may be expensive. More amount of solvents are required because in the case of column chromatography we need to flow down, or we need to continuously flow the mobile phase in order to separate constituent mixture from the constituent mixture. So next is automation makes the technique more complicated and costlier. So here automation of this technique, column chromatography technique, makes more complicated and costlier technique for the separation of the component mixtures. So this is all about the column chromatography. If you have any questions regarding this chromatographic method, so in this chromatographic method we have discussed the basics of the chromatography, and then we have briefly discussed about paper chromatography and column chromatography. So if you have any questions related to the discussed concepts, so you just call me, or you can inbox me, and then I will definitely answer to you. So thank you.